All right, what's up, everybody? We're live in the cave tonight. As you can see, I'm not alone in the cave. So listen, like, share, DM somebody, text somebody, call them, let them know the cave is on the air. We have a special episode tonight entitled Growing Up Prophetic. And if you hadn't figured it out, I'm hanging out with two of my daughters. I've got Marcia and Patrice are here with me. My oldest son will be coming in just a minute. And so like, share, let somebody know we're coming on. We're going to talk about growing up prophetic. We're going to talk about their experiences coming up. They may look young, but they are adults. All right. So they're going to talk about their experiences growing up in the prophetic, growing up in the prophetic household, growing up with prophetic parents. I don't know what they're going to say because we don't have a script. They got a couple of questions, but I don't know. It's unscripted tonight. So let somebody know. Y'all come on in, fill up the space. All right, let me make a couple of announcements real quick. We've got the here we go. We got the Cave School of Prophets coming up. If you want to be involved in the School of Prophets, go to marktmay.com, marktmay.com. You can get signed up and get more information right there. Also, if you want to be on our text alert, all you have to do is text the number that's on the screen there, 855-514-7511, and you will get the text alerts when we go live. You'll get text alerts about what's the any of the big announcements that are coming up. All right, well, let's jump right into it. Let's see. We got them in the cave, y'all. I don't know what they're gonna say. Let's see who's out here before we get started. Come on. Let me know who's watching. Let me shout you out from whichever city that you are in. And then we're going to jump right into what's going on. All right, there we go. We got Florida. How you doing tonight? Sister Hester, thank you for joining us. All right, look like we got the latecomer coming in. My son is coming on. So we're going to bring him in as well in just a second. Let's see. Hopefully his audio and everything is good. We didn't get a chance to do a sound check, but get the word out. I got these prophetic prophetic kids, prophetic family members, whatever. We got them in here. All right, let me bring in this other gentleman. There he is, Marcus. Let me see. Can I hear you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Well, we live. We are live right now. And so we're going to go ahead and jump right into this. Thank you, Jeremiah, for being on. Robin, thank you for being on. Listen, text somebody, let them know, hey, the cave is live. And we're talking tonight about growing up prophetic. I have Patrice. I can't say to my right or my left because I don't know how it's showing up on the screen. My oldest daughter, Patrice. My second youngest daughter, Marcia. And my oldest son, Marcus, is in the cave with me live tonight. I think I'm just going to jump right into the fire. I was going to ask one of these interesting questions, but this is what I really want to find out. Now, hopefully our audio is going to be really good. So you ladies, make sure you speak up. And I'm going to ask this question. This was the last question that I sent them. Now, I don't know what the answers are going to be. I just gave out questions. So what I want to know is what are the reasons or what are the issues? And I don't know who wants to go first. The issues, what are the issues that your friends, your generation, because you all are millennials, what are the issues that they have with church or going to church, attending church, being a part of a church? Let's just jump right straight into the fire.
I would say I've heard individuals mention, they may have grown up in the church, but they saw Sister Mary going to church for 30 years and doing it as a routine, but she never really changed. So they don't really see the need in going because after she goes to church, she go in the neighborhood and probably cuss the kids out for being on the yard or something of that nature. So a lot of people, they more so associated church with religious spirits versus really having a relationship with God.
So let's see. Let's get some. Marcia, you want to jump
Mm.
in? So you passed Marcus. What do you have any? What are your thoughts? What are something that some of your people that you know that you interact with? What do they? What are the issues that they may have with church or going to church?
So most of the people I talk to, they say that they don't feel like they have a place in the church because there's not a lot of youth in the church. Once and then the old people push them out and they condemn them or what they doing, and they basically doing the same thing.
Good point. So basically, what I hear from your two answers that they see church folks as hypocrites.
Yeah.
Yes,
They
that
pretty much
that.
see us as hypocrites. So I hope you
Mm.
leaders, I hope there's some more leaders. Get some more leaders on here. Tag your pastors, tag your apostles, tag your bishops. Let's get some answers
Mhm.
tonight so we can solve some of these issues with what's wrong with the church. Why is there only one generation in your church? Now that's dangerous. Let me throw that out there real quick. It's dangerous if your church only has one generation. Now I'm in the baby boomer generation, and I don't have all the years in front of me that separates all the years, but we've got baby boomers, then we've got the was the generation, we got X, we got
Yeah.
millennials, we've got Z's, what's the what then we got the little ones, my grandkids with their Z, and then you got Alpha. The youngest ones are the babies, the youngest ones of ours. We've got like 4 or 5 different of these, all these generations all mixed up in the family dynamic, and we also have them have that in the church. And so we've got to figure out how we are going to reach this generation, these different generations, and keep them involved, because I know just from some conversations that we've had that a lot of people are turning to other stuff, and I want to skip that. I'm not going to get into that right now, but they're turning to other stuff, and
Yeah.
we're not going to get into that. So let me ask some of these questions that I have. So, what was it like growing up in a prophetic household? And maybe somebody watching may have a question. And we may have time to get to it. And you may have a question. You can throw that question out there. Hey, Vicky, that's my other daughter. Uh,
Hey, Dad.
what is it like growing up in a prophetic household?
Boy, you can't get away with nothing.
So
Yes.
since you said that, what give me an example or some story from your memory, because her answer was you can't get away. Patrice answered you can't get away with anything or nothing. So give us an example. I've got one, but I'm not going to say who it is when I give mine.
I would say, well, not one specifically, but when we used to get in trouble or somebody used to do something, and you and mommy will already come in and know who did it and line us up, and nobody would fess up, and it'd be like, and then the person, you get to the person that did it, and you like, did you do it? And they still lying or telling that they didn't do it, and you guys have that sense of discernment to already know and pinpoint who who had done it, and waiting for them to fess up. But yeah.
So does
Mhm.
Marcia or Marcus, you got any particular one that stands out to you?
I remember you when we lived in Detroit and we didn't have a car. You would go outside with your prayer blanket and anoint the driveway, and you would stay out there for a few hours and pray that
Was I do
we
that
get a vehicle.
often? Hey,
That's
so
one of the prophetic things that that you did that always stuck out to me.
Okay, so he remembers. So man, that was interesting. Yeah, years ago when they were younger. And let me establish this point. So my wife and I have been married will be 40 years in April, 40 years on April the 7th. And so Marcus is the oldest. So he's basically the only one who doesn't know me in ministry because there's 4 years between him and Patrice. I'm not going to tell everybody's age, but there's 4 years between him and Patrice. And so after her and everyone else that came, I was already in ministry. So all they know is they know me as prophet, apostle. That's what they know. And so so in those days, yeah, I remember in those days we lived in Detroit, and it was it had snowed one time, and we didn't have
Mhm.
transportation, or something happened to our transportation, and I went outside, and the neighbor down the street said, "You want me to?" He had a snow blower. He said, "You want me to blow the snow out the driveway for your car?" I said, "Yeah." Didn't have a car at the time. But
Mhm.
prophetically, I'm like, yes, clear the driveway because my car is coming. Good evening, Kim. Good evening, cuz. Deshaun, thank you
I'm
for
gonna add
being on.
something.
Okay, so go ahead, Patrice.
Oh, I was gonna say, but watching, like growing up, watching you do stuff like put the oil in the driveway and anoint it as if we already had a car. Um, a couple years ago when I had my Altima and it broke down on like a Friday, or maybe it was a Thursday or Friday. I went out because I remember, you doing that. So I didn't have any oil or anointing oil at my house. So I had cooking oil. So I took it outside and I lined the parking spot where my car would have been. And I ended up getting a new car that Saturday.
Wow. So
Yeah.
let's see that things like that. And so let me go to Nick. Marcia, you got something you want to add?
I would say prophetic memory is you guys could always discern if something was wrong, and you always were concerned with how we were emotionally and if we were okay. Like the Lord showed me this, or the Lord revealed this to me. What's going on? Let's have a conversation. Let's talk.
Good. So Marcus, you kind of jumped into already, like into the second question I was going to ask about what are some of the most memorable moments, uh, growing up prophetic and growing up
Mm.
in the household. Let me ask, let's kind of jump around a little bit. And I was thinking, what about after, in ministry? Now I know after, in church or in a church service or in one of our conferences, what is one of the things that stood out? Because we've had a lot of amazing things happen over the years. And I'm just curious to what something that stands out to you from those days when we were having annual conferences and things of that nature.
I
Yeah.
remember um, when you asked people to write prayer requests and bring them on the altar, that you wasn't going to read them, just to show people that you hear from the Lord, so they won't think you performing a hoax or whatever. And you prophesied to people that there were going to be checks in their mailbox, and medical bills were going to be canceled, and student loans, and those things happened during the conference.
Now that's interesting. I'm gonna let Patrice answer too because she has. But I was thinking about some of the things that happened uh, during those times when we had conferences, and it was, of course, pre-social media days. So I was thinking, I
Hmm.
said, man, I'm sure I probably would be a meme or something right now with some of the stuff we used to do,
Yeah.
back then. So I came around. I think I came around in the right generation. So Patrice, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just gonna say the miracles that were happening. People not
Hmm.
having dental insurance and getting uh fillings in their mouth, and not just gold like caps, but they were getting white gold and um legs growing out. I remember one service you told people to get $1 out and write on there. I forgot what you had them write, but then the next day, well, actually, it might have been the same day because I think we had a second service or somebody came back with a Jaguar on the Sunday. They had got a brand new car that Sunday, with the money that you told them to ride on. Um, blind
I,
eyes open, just all type of things. It was a lot of stuff.
I
Interesting.
remember that.
Marcia, what do you So Marcia is in agreement. Now, if y'all haven't picked out, this is the one. Marcia over here is the one that's most like me. I will not believe it. I'm the quiet, introverted one. My wife is not she is the extroverted one, but nobody would believe that because y'all always see me up in front. But Marcia is more like me. So you know that was something you said, and I want people to grab hold to that. I want to say that. So you remember we had a conference, and what actually happens, the Lord told me to pray for people who needed dental work. And the result of that was people were getting gold fillings in their mouth. Now they remember this as coming up as kids because this is, over, I don't know, 15 years ago or more, that they remember this happening, and this is what happened. And I guess what the point I want to make, this goes along with the scripture that's in Acts 4:2, where the apostles came before. I think it was Peter and John that came before. I think it's 4:20, came before the king, and the king told me, tell me about what's going on, what's all of this about. And
Mhm.
they said, all I can do is tell you about what I've seen and what I've heard. And so they talked about the miracles of Jesus. They talked about the things that Jesus had done. And so this is, I think, some of the missing ingredient that's in church and in ministry today. I think this is some of the missing ingredient. There's nothing to
Yeah.
tell. There's nothing to see. And
Mhm.
well, I'm gonna ask it. These are my kids. They're gonna tell the truth. What's one thing, but they're gonna tell the truth. If it's wrong, it's wrong. So let me ask this question. So out of all these years in ministry, I think I started preaching, 1980. I can't even remember, but it's almost 30 years. Okay. I think it was, no, 87. I started preaching. I think I preached my first sermon in our local church in 89. Like 2 years later, I went to Bible school for 2 years. But let me ask you, has this thing been consistent? What we're talking about? I mean, the miracles, the signs, the wonders. Uh, your mother and I living the life that we should be living, publicly and privately. So I want to ask the question: has it been consistent?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say
All
yes.
right. Okay. So the point being, I guess I want to make is that things have been consistent, not just in the ministry of the signs, wonders, miracles, preaching the gospel, preaching the truth, all that, but in character and the way that we lived our lives in front of our children. Okay, the way
Mhm.
we lived our lives all these years in front of our children, I think that's more important than any of the other stuff that I do, preaching, traveling the world, going to over 35 countries, and uh all the signs and wonders and miracles and all of this stuff and the prophetic schools. I think the most important thing is the way that we have lived our lives, our first ministry being to one another and to the family. To me, I think that is the most important thing, you know. So let's go on to the next question. Let's see here. Oh, your mom sent a couple. Let me see what your mom had. What her questions were. All right, she wants to know. Your mother has several questions, so let me see here. So I like this one. She says, to ask you all, do you? I guess this is the question is about how, I guess, do the gifts work in you? And the question is kind of like, do you just know things, or let's see, do you just know things or see things in the spirit? Do you see things and know things in the spirit? Is one of the questions that your mom is asking. Now, before they answer, I want to say this: I've never pushed anybody towards ministry or told them they got to do what I do or be like me. But when you're around stuff, I like I said, the anointing, the word anoint meaning it means to rub on or to smear on. So you got to be around it for it to get on you. But so let's see what this. I want to hear the answer to this question. So your mom wants to know: do you know things, or sense things, or see things in the spirit? Who want to be
Yes, I
first?
do. I
All
go
right. Well,
first.
listen. Since you said that, I want you to give an example. Now, I remember you telling me when you were went to truck driving school and you had to drive through the mountains. And so I want you to tell that story because I think it's a
Okay.
very good story, and I think it's applicable to what we're talking about right now. You were driving through the mountains, and you said you told the Lord while you were learning how to drive, you driving all through these steep mountains and stuff. You asked him, "Why did he make? Why did he God? Why did you make mountains?" So, so tell us. Take a few minutes to tell us that story, Marcus.
Okay, so I was on the road with my trainer. I was in Seattle. It was the first time driving in the mountains with a heavy load. I it was nighttime. It was construction. It was raining. It was everything going. So the truck started going faster, and I didn't feel like I can control it. And my trainer asked, "Was I okay?" I said, "No." He said, "Calm down, relax." And I was panicking, so I was like, I started praying to myself. I said, "Lord, I'm coming home to see you today, because this truck gonna roll off this mountain." And then, and so, so I just kept praying, and then my instructor, he said, calm down, slow the truck down, pump the brakes, don't jam the brakes, they're gonna overheat. Everybody passing by me, and I'm still getting frustrated. I'm like, Lord, why did you even put me in this situation? Is this how I'm gonna go out? And so he said that. And then I just kept fussing. I said, "Why did you make these mountains? You shouldn't have never made these mountains." And then I heard a clear voice. He said, "Why do you think I made the mountains?" And then I turned around and looked, and I said, "Huh?" And he said, "Why do you think I made these mountains?" He said, "You don't go over mountains, you go through mountains." And I was like, "What is that supposed to mean? This truck is about to flip over." And he said, he said, "You don't go around mountains, you don't go over mountains, you go through mountains." And so I asked myself again, what does that mean? And so he said it again. He said, "You go through mountains." He said, "They're not going away." He said, "They're there to challenge you. Once you learn to navigate through mountains, you can navigate through any terrain." And so once he said that, I took a deep breath, rolled the window down, got the truck under control. And once we got to the bottom of the mountain, I put the truck over. And I was like, "Lord, what was that?" And he was like, "You passed the test." That's exactly what he said. And so after that day, driving through the mountains was a piece of cake. Whenever I would get any challenges, I would always remember what he said. He said, every time you going through a mountain, he said it's to elevate you.
Mm. I hope y'all caught that. You
That
said
was
you don't,
good. That was
you,
a word.
you don't go over mountains. You don't climb them.
That was a word.
You got
You
to
go
go
through it.
through the mountains. Come on, that's as they say, it's a word. Jeremy is agreeing with it. That look, that's a whole word, as y'all say. That is a whole word, man. That was good. So, well, give me another. Well, I got another one I want to bring up. Patrice, I remember when you were in college and you had a dream, because Patrice is a dreamer, and you had a dream about your roommate. Do you remember that? What I'm talking about?
Which one? Who? The
She went
weekend?
away. No, she went away for the weekend, and you dreamed that something happened. It was something that happened. Because I want you to tell it. So something that happened, and when she came back, you told her what you dreamed and she didn't tell her parents, and what you had dreamed uh came to pass. Do you remember that story? She don't even remember. I'm gonna start the story.
I don't.
You had a roommate. I
Mm-hmm.
remember you telling me that you dreamed that she went away and got married over the weekend?
Oh, the white girl. But I don't. Oh, I'm sorry.
We live.
I told y'all it was. I told y'all. I told y'all it was unscripted. I told y'all it was unscripted. Okay. So what? So go ahead and tell the story. Now we done identified the person. Come on and tell the story.
No, I vaguely remember because I get so many dreams and prophecies and stuff. I don't give them to remember sometimes. So
All right. Well, now I remember it, so I'm going to. Since she don't remember it when I tell part of it, she remembered. But her friend went away to for the weekend, and over the weekend she got married secretly, and she hadn't told her parents or anybody. And Patrice had the dream that she got married and didn't tell her parents. And so when she came back, you mentioned it to her, and she was shocked that you would know. Now, do you remember that now? Oh my goodness. But I can't fault her because people tell me you prophesied this to me, and I'd be like, I don't remember. You know, I prophesied to so many people. I don't remember prophecies, and I don't dwell on the fact that is it gonna happen or is it gonna come to pass, and that I've been doing this too long. I ain't gonna be hanging around worrying about if it's gonna happen or not. I just drop it off and keep it moving. So Marcia, do you have any type of example for us?
I mean, I'm a dreamer too. God reveals things to me in my dreams. I typically dream things that are currently happening, and I know that there's God pushing me to. For example, it could be a dream about a person and something that they're dealing with or going through, and I know that that's God pushing me to reach out to that person and to also be in prayer for them. So
that's good. Well, you know, one of the things I want to kind of bring to the forefront, even in this conversation we're having with them, even that they have spiritual giftings, God speaks to them, God shows them things, but nobody officially is in ministry. And this is what I want people to understand, being a part of the body of Christ, that God can use you. And it doesn't mean you're going to be standing up in a pulpit like I'm doing and traveling, going all around the world like I'm doing. But God will use you in whatever arena or atmosphere or environment. He'll use you in the marketplace, the workplace, uh, in business and entrepreneurship. He can use you in all of those areas, and your gift will be evident in those areas. So you don't necessarily have to be standing up in a pulpit. So I want y'all to understand that tonight. So let me find one of these other good questions we got for these. So then, your mom asks, how has growing up in a prophetic household drawn you closer to God? Has it drawn you closer to God or not? That was the question. Has it drawn you closer to God or not?
Closer.
I just think I would say it's given us a foundation, um, something that a lot of our peers don't have. Um, just from personal experience, the prophetic is all I knew, or just growing up in the church and stuff like that. So when I went off to school, I thought I could do what I wanted to do, and it was dangerous out there. It was. You took. I would say I kind of took grown up prophetic for granted, to say the least. Um, didn't realize how important it was to stay covered, stay prayed up. Um, I couldn't do the same thing my friends did because the spirit of conviction. I knew right from wrong. I knew what was instilled in me from a young age. Uh, so it was a lot of back and forth going on with me personally. And then once I was out there, I just knew I was like, this is not for me. I got to go back. So I had to go back to what I knew.
All right. Well, I guess you got to go back. You got to stick with what you know. Let's see. So, what would be, I guess, your advice to? Well, let me back up. because I know there was a period of time, and I know you all have visited other churches and been in different types of environments and ministries
Mhm.
or different churches, different from what you grew up in. And y'all have come back and told me some stories and some things that you've seen. So let me ask the question: how does going and visiting other churches or ministries, because of your background growing up prophetic, how does that what usually happens when you go and visit somewhere else? This I want to hear some of this, because I mean y'all told me some stories, but I want to hear something. So Patrice is always eager to go. You got a story?
I don't even know what.
I would say you're able to identify a lot of different spirits that operate in these churches. And then my father is a prophet, but he's also a teacher. So when you're hearing the word of God being preached, you also notice that at times you're just being preached motivational speaking instead of being taught the word.
That's good. So you said you recognize different spirits when you go to other places and visit, as over the years growing up, and you guess the quality of what the word that was being preached or taught. That's interesting, because I had a friend of mine. I'm not going to name any names of places, but a friend of mine whose son went to school down this area, and he went to one of the more known churches. I was trying to say it so I wouldn't identify anybody. And he called his dad, because his dad is an apostle, and he told him, he said, that dude wasn't talking about nothing. But you got a church full of people, because he came up under a father who's apostle prophet who has quality word and message. And so there's a difference when you come into those types of environments. So Patrice, do you have something you want to share?
I don't even know if I should say it on live. No, but I agree with Marcia that you are able to discern a lot of spirits operating in the church, and it's like when you're very sensitive to the spirit, it's actually kind of uncomfortable. And I don't know, it's like, I don't know, people might look at me like, oh, she being judgy, because I'm just looking around. It's like I'm not looking at the person, I'm looking at the spirits operating. You think somebody over there praising, but they having a whole, like, the spirit over there cutting up in the corner. Y'all don't even see that. The people over there, they don't even know what's going on. Like Marcia said, the preacher is preaching, but he's not even preaching scripture. He's just, I don't know what he's doing. It's a circus in there sometimes. And then I've even had situations where people try to prophesy over me, and I'm like, no, that's not right. Or they try to speak certain things over me or tell me I'm going through something, and I'm like, no, that's not accurate. And then they look at me crazy when I don't want to receive that word, or they try to force me, or they keep going on and trying to add more details to make it seem as it's going to change the word. I even went to a church, and as you all know, my dad has the prophetic school. So I went to a church who tried to have a whole prophetic school, and that won't right. So I've seen it all.
Yeah. Oh well, we'll let
Mhm.
that drop right there. we'll let that settle right there, because there's some other stuff that I can say, but I'm gonna leave that thing alone right there. But of course, when I started the prophetic school, to let some of you that don't know, I mean, I started the prophetic training center. I believe it was in 1997 is when I
Mhm.
wrote my first training manual. And so you got to imagine, all of them were young. And so
Mhm.
when we went to the classes, they were in the classes. They were in the school. They were with me and my wife. They were in the prophetic training school. And so they know from manifesting. You had demons manifested and all kind of stuff going on. And so they've seen all of this stuff. Looks like Marcus, you might have froze. We're going to pull you out for a minute. And so you have these manifestations and stuff going on. And so they know from experience what happens, and what's real, what's not real. And I'm not saying
Hmm.
that there's anything wrong with a lot of places, but you just experience, because we're talking about growing up prophetic right now. Those are just some of the experiences uh, that they have had. And so I was just trying to give you a historical timeline, at least, like, since 1997. So they would be in there. I mean, and I don't know how many classes that they probably set in the prophetic. My God, over all those years, they were right there.
Hmm.
And my wife would tell you, I would be teaching. Well, they can tell you I'd be teaching. I'll stop and say, look, I'm still in the spirit. I see you over there cutting
Yep.
up,
Yeah.
and I'll go right back to doing what I was doing. And so, I mean, that's just how it was. What's up,
Mhm.
Terrace? I see you join us. What's going on?
Mhm.
So yeah, man, it's been it was some interesting times, with you all growing up and doing that. And those of you that don't know, there are 9 of you in total, and so that's a handful to deal with when you're dealing with ministry and dealing with church and all of that. So let's see.
Hmm.
I think I got another question. Let's talk about some more about reaching this generation that we're in. So, what would be some things or some advice that we may have for leaders that could help them reach these generations? I was looking at a clip today on Instagram, and I don't remember who it was, but they were addressing I think it was a denomination, and they were telling them about, think about millennials, and you think they're all young. They didn't even know the timeline of what millennials are. And the lady she said, I'm 40. She said,
Hmm.
millennials are grown, millennials are adults. And I think that's what the older generation, the generation I'm in, the baby boomers, I think that's where we make the mistake that we think everybody is just, we group people in the same grouping. We think everybody is young. And I mean, I had that experience growing up. Me and, we'll be married 40 years in April. And I had people, in the church we grew up, we've been married 10 years, still thinking we was kids. So that's a mistake that always the previous generation makes, that sometimes they don't give the respect or the honor to the generation that's coming and the generation that's coming behind them. So what advice, if you could give advice to well, I'm gonna use myself for an example. What advice can you give your dad for starting a new church, starting a new ministry? What advice would you give? What advice would you give me? Then we won't get nobody in trouble. What advice would you give me? That what should I do if I want to keep the generations in the church? Don't everybody speak at the same time?
Mhm.
Well, I would say one thing.
Patrice?
Well, I was going to say that one thing leaders can do is don't make it seem that they're unapproachable, because a lot of people think leaders are,
Okay.
they look at leaders as Jesus himself, and not realizing that no one in the church is perfect. So a lot of people feel like they have to be perfect to enter the church. And the way I explain it, that church is a hospital. You don't go to the hospital because you feel good. You go to the church to be healed and be fixed. You're not supposed to already be fixed going into the church. And so I would say
Yeah.
just reach people where they
That's
are,
good.
and don't try to make people feel like they have to be perfect to enter the church.
That's good. Y'all want to add anything to that? Y'all don't have no advice for me?
Um,
they they're thinking about it. So anyway, we'll look. We will.
I don't know. I mean, I guess just giving people a place. But I feel like you already have been doing that. No longer church as usual. That's always been your motto. But I do see other places where, they're still kind of stuck in that religious mindset. And so, like, we got somebody that's Marcia's age and they up there hooping and hollering, preaching like he's 75. And it's just like, but, and then it's like, he's not reaching his generation and he has something to say, but it's almost like they're trying to conform him and mold him to be,
Hmm.
that old type of preacher versus really using him for his gift and his calling. Um, and that's another thing too. A lot of people, they are prophetic, and God uses them in different ways, and they might come in with tattoos, piercings, and things like that, and they're able to reach a certain generation. But once they get into ministry or certain churches, leadership starts to um, try to control their gift.
Okay. Well, that's good. I think
Yes, sir.
what you're saying is really good. That once, so then we need to be relevant. Yeah, I get what you're saying, that we need to be relevant. You can't follow, like you said, somebody that's your age preaching, like you said, preaching like an old man doesn't translate.
Yeah, but it's a thin line though, because I know you seen like the headlines on social media with certain churches, they in there swag surfing, or
Oh
it's
Lord.
almost like they're conforming to the world versus it's not, they're not reaching the generation, or they're not using wisdom. Let me say that.
Gotta use the,
Hmm.
you gotta use you gotta use wisdom. What you're saying, and I think what happens, and this is what I believe, that in every generation there's a sound.
Yeah.
There's a sound that
Hmm.
comes, and we have to identify with the sound. And when you identify with the sound of that generation will respond to that sound. Like in Ezekiel,
Yes.
there's a noise, there's a sound, there's a shaking, there's a coming together, there's a sound. And even I remember, now if you say something about Kirk Franklin, he's old, he old school. That's what people say. But I remember when Kirk Franklin put a rap on the song
Mhm.
Stomp, and the whole
Hmm.
church went into an uproar because, and they didn't even know what they were talking about. They were talking about he got Little Kim rapping on this song. I'm like, that's not Little Kim, because they're so caught up in their church world, they didn't even know who it was. And so I'm just saying, so when you think about like what Kirk Franklin was then, and then you look at now, I mean, that's nothing. And things progress. God is always moving, and we just
Hmm.
have to adapt with the sound, because sound comes from heaven, and the sounds change, and you have to change the sound as generations change. And that's not compromising. We're not talking about compromising, saying stuff that's against scripture, saying stuff that's against Christian conduct, character. We're not talking about that, but we have to be like that tabernacle of David, which had, it had dancers, it had worshipers, it had praisers and singers and priests, and it had all of that. And so we need to encompass all of that in our ministry and in our churches today. I think that's what really, uh, to kind of sum up what you all are saying.
Yes.
And it's very important that we have to move, because it says in Matthew that God is ever proceeding, Matthew 4:4, that man should not live by bread alone, but every word that proceedeth out the mouth of God. God is ever proceeding. You know, the tent, the fire, the cloud is moving. We've got to follow the pillar of fire. We got to follow the cloud, and that's what we need to do. We can't get stuck in something because it was good at one time or in one season. That doesn't mean it's going to be good in the next season, or it's going to be good tomorrow. Uh, I mean, but that's my 2 cents on that.
Mhm.
Now, anything else you all may want to add to this conversation tonight that maybe I did not bring up? So called, somebody says, M. Dot says, so caught up in churchiness, and that's it. We get so caught up in churchiness or religion or the traditions of men. And I believe it's Mark 7:13. It says, when you the traditions of man that make the word of God of none effect. And so we have to get away from tradition and the religion having the form of godliness but denying the power thereof. Is something you want to add, Patrice?
No.
Okay, I saw you pull your notebook out. I thought she was about to take a text. Marcia, she pulled out a notebook. Mark, I thought she was going to take a text. I was getting ready. Okay, so so listen, everybody. Listen, this is the fam, and we've been talking about growing up prophetic. If you're just now joining us and you came in late, and so we've been addressing some situations of coming up in the generations and what it was like for them growing up, in a prophetic household. I had a story I was going to tell, but I think I'm going to keep this story because it might get too personal to one of y'all siblings. I don't want nobody get mad at me tonight, but I had a good one. How the prophetic stopped the situation, but I'm not even going to get into that right now, y'all. I just leave y'all wondering.
I want to know.
Leave that hanging out there. Patrice not telling me now she was now curious minds want to know. Now she wants to know what's going on. Well, let
Me
me
too.
ask this. So now, okay, you're in your adult life, you're living your life. Now, how does the prophetic, and you gave a couple of examples, but how does the prophetic um kind of govern or guide you in your life right now?
In every aspect. um, I will say I've always been very sensitive to the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always had a personal relationship. However, since maybe about 50 days ago, I had started 40 days of fasting and prayer. And then we started the new year, fasting and really seeking God. And I'll say I have been very, very sensitive to the spirit lately, to the point he'll tell me what gas station to go to, what grocery store, like just simple things that, like
What?
we'll be like, oh, I'll just go to this Walmart because it's close. But God's like, no, I want you to go over there. And it's like, to me, it's like, why? Like, why do I got to go across town to go do something so simple? Or just, and so God's just like, I just need your obedience in this season, and stop asking why. Have I not proven myself to you time and time again? And so
Yes.
now I'm just getting into the habit of stop asking why not me, stop asking why me, why not me. So just even the little things, I don't know, but it's been mind blowing. It's like, even though I've seen miracles happen, even with the little things that have been happening, or I guess what I consider small, it still is blowing my mind away.
Oh, your mom throws one out here. So so she just threw one out here.
Oh
We got
man.
about 10 more minutes. Yeah, we were traveling and we were in Detroit, and she called home. And let's see, somebody was driving and didn't have no driver's license and then took the car.
I was in college. I wasn't there.
And then somebody else is going to get in the car with the person that has no driver's license
Mm.
and ride with them. And my wife she just felt like something wasn't right, and she called home and found out what was going on. I mean, it's a whole story in that. And Vicky's cracking up at y'all.
They threw a
Yeah,
party,
yeah.
y'all.
Oh,
I
and
remember that.
there was
I
the
know you
party.
did it.
Yeah, yeah.
In the background, some people who did it. Well, pretty
And
much, if you
Mama
know
had
the
to call
family,
the
you know who.
Mama had to call
Go
the
ahead, son.
spiritual squad to come clear the house out.
Oh, I tell you. Yeah, it was. So it was things like that where you just kind of know. And you know what? And my youngest son, who is not on with us tonight, but I remember he moved. He moved out of the city twice, and I would tell your mom, I said, your son's coming home today, and she's like, well, he called you and said he coming home. I was like, no, he didn't say he was coming home. And lo and behold, later that day, he done come back. He done went on his adventure to whatever city he called himself moving to, and then here he come back with his stuff. Talking about he coming back home, and he did that twice. And each time when he was coming, I knew he was coming back, and he hadn't talked to me, and we knew when he was coming back.
That's the spiritual person that had to come break the party up.
They're the one to help break the party up. What's going on? So, I tell you, they had some good experiences and had some fun, and God intervened and stopped a lot of other crazy stuff. But I tell you, it has been a pleasure. I mean, I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, this is how you learn. This is the experience. You find out. The Old Testament talks about prove me, and that actually translates into find out through experience. So hey, they had to experience it to find out what was going on. But what I like about the conversation tonight is that you see that this was just not our church life, but this was our life. This was our life. This is how we live life. Now I know. Well, I'll give y'all a chance to tell one of these. So we'll tell us a story, a particular time about, because these kids always send us these videos when people make these jokes about this is how my saved mama act, or this is how my. So tell them some stories about when we would be praying in the house.
I got one. I had came home from school and I seen oil dripping down my door. And I said, what happened here? They tell me, Lord, they had anointing the doorpost. And that cross stayed on my door for about 5 years, I
think. Look, you be sneak next thing you know.
2:00 in the morning, mama praying, walking around the house, got the worship music going. Everybody better get up and start praying with her too.
Yes.
Be on 5 a.m. prayer calls like we ain't got school in the morning.
Y'all on a 5:30 call right now.
Help us, Lord. Jesus.
We got the church right now on a 5:30 a.m. Prayer call. And I mean, and that's just it, because that's part of your life. That's part of the prophetic dynamic, the prophetic dimension. And we did, you mentioned about the one since like you came and there was some oil on the door, but we had a really strange experience one time in the house where we prayed, and we did not put oil on the door, but all the door posts had oil on them, and we didn't put oil.
That's what it was. Y'all didn't put it on there, but it was a cross with oil on.
We didn't put the oil on the door, but we had been worshiping and praying in the house that oil appeared on the doorposts of all the doors in the house. That was one of those crazy prophetic experiences that we had. So, it's good to have them on with me tonight so that you all can see. Go ahead, Teresa.
You remember you used to be on a radio station with Apostle Gene?
Yes.
I remember going to you early in the morning. Or was it? I don't know. What time did you used to do that?
That was a late night.
In the morning and in the afternoon on the radio. So you go when she don't want to get back to Detroit.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. It's just we used to go, and I used to be like, "Can I go?" Or it used to be fun to us. A lot of people used to think, or I have people ask me now. They think growing up with parents in ministry is strict, or I don't know. They just look at it from a different perspective, as if we can't have fun or we didn't have fun. But it was really fun, or I had a lot of fun. But I'm glad that I had boundaries, and I think people confuse being strict versus me having a boundary, and that boundary was essential for my spiritual well-being. And I'm actually glad that I grew up in a prophetic household.
And I think of another situation when Marcia was running track, and She had states, was it states or nationals? She had something, and it was in Georgia, and it was on a Sunday,
Yeah.
and it was states. She was in states finals, and it was on a Sunday, and I didn't go to church that day, and I was the so-called pastor, senior leader, and I didn't go to church. I went to the track meet in Georgia.
Mhm.
And I was telling some people that, and they were so shocked that I would go to a track meet on a Sunday. And I thought
Mhm.
it was more important for me to go and support my daughter in the States than for me to be there Sunday. I wasn't the only one that knew how to preach.
Yeah.
I wasn't the only one that can preach, teach. And so that's what I went to do. I supported them. And then, but on the other hand, I knew other people who their families didn't let them do anything. They didn't want to playing basketball. They didn't want them in sports. All of you all were in the band. You know,
Mhm.
some of them didn't want their kids in the band because you were a majorette, right? Yeah, majorette, Mariah, and they had them little short skirts on, and some of these religious people that we know, like, oh, that's too short. Why are they in there doing that? And they shaking this and they shaking that. I mean, really, come on. Wasn't that serious? Wasn't that deep? And sometimes people are just so deep, they miss,
Mhm.
they just miss God being deep. Well, look, y'all,
Mhm.
we're running up on about 2 minutes. So is there anything else one of you want to add? And we're gonna get ready to wrap it up. Marcus, you got something you want to add before we go off?
I remember you when we lived in Detroit. You would go out and minister and give people food that was on the streets just hanging out. And then one instance in particular, I remember you had came home at night and mom had made two sandwiches, and gave a bag of chips to you. You said you had to go give it to this man because he said that he let you prophesy to him if you got him something to eat. And so you
See, I
came
remember.
home and got him some food. And I ended up riding back with you. You was out there for about 10 minutes when it was on Joy Road in Dexter.
Yeah. Yeah, you remember those days. I remember those days. We got a Pastor Samuel. I guess he is Samuel. Are you, sir? Are you in Kenya, or where are you? You're requesting prayer. We want to pray for this man that's watching us from overseas. I want to see where he's from, and then we're gonna pray for him before we get off tonight. Kids did everything: band, track, basketball, volleyball, soccer, ballet, tap. That's right. So,
Yeah.
Pastor Samuel, are you still on? I want to pray for you.